So hello, my name is Steve. I'm an engineer with the Uno platform team, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today is how you can use Uno platform to basically, um, run your .NET, bring .NET everywhere, and bring it to any platform you want, build it on any platform you want, and target any platform you want, right? And so I don't really have slides. I'm just going to go on our website because it's pretty enough, and we're just going to show some apps, build some stuff, show some features. So it's going to be sort of loose. So basically, what I'll first do is just what is Uno Platform, right? And so Uno Platform itself, at its core, the core sort of library of what it is a cross-platform UI framework, right? So you can develop and build your UI using XAML or C Sharp, and it works across. And sorry, it'll look the same, and it'll compile, and it'll target any of the platforms. So Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, Linux, the web, embedded systems, anything. Your UI will run, and it'll look the same across all those things, as well as being able to develop on all those. So you can develop on Windows, on iOS, on Mac OS and Linux, thanks to things like Rider. And so what happens sort of around that core framework that you'll see in this graphic that's showing here is basically we have this whole platform of stuff that floats around this core piece of technology, right? So on top of that, we have our theming engine, we have Uno extensions library, we have Uno toolkit. So these are all sort of first-party libraries that bring extra stuff to the platform. So it can bring things like the material material designs to your application, to your UI. Extensions brings in like big pieces of functionality that you would want to use that you don't have to reinvent every time, right? So we have like the navigation framework. We have our own presentation framework called MVUX. That's like sort of, if you know, like reactive extensions and observables, it's sort of like that kind of vibe. And lots of other cool things like that, as well as more tooling that we'll look at today that sort of help you develop your applications, and third-party support, right? So we have a lot of vendors, like control vendors, and a lot of really cool libraries that support Uno, and we're going to take a look at all those today, right? And so that everything I just mentioned is free, it's open source, and so you can go and you can jump ahead, and then we'll show a little bit more of what we've been doing recently and some of the really cool technology we've built using Uno itself. And so um, basically, the timeline of building an Uno application is getting your dev environment, right? So, like I mentioned, you can develop on any platform, on any operating system, and you can use any IDE. Obviously, the most versatile one, the one you should be using, is JetBrains Rider. So that's what we're going to be using today because it allows us to go to any of these platforms and build on any of these platforms, right? And so the first step, sort of going forward, I like to always show this just because getting set up for these types of things could be really annoying sometimes. There's lots of dependencies. Your dev environment has to be rebuilt, and it's all crazy. So the two things that we kind of really did to try and help get over the hurdle of getting everything set up. The first one is Uno check. So if we look here, yes, this here. So we have a .NET tool. So as long as you have .NET installed, you can do .NET tool install global Uno check. It's just going to tell me it's already installed, but that's what you would usually do, and it would install Uno check as a .NET tool. And then you can do, this should hopefully work. I mean, so it shouldn't give me any errors, but this should hopefully tell me everything's already installed because it's supposed to be. But you can run Uno check and basically, it will, check if you have the JDK, do you have the Android SDK installed, do you have an emulator, do you have Xcode, do you have the proper .NET workloads that we all love so much, and all those things. And so yes, everything's good for me. I'm ready to go. Good. But basically, if anything went wrong there, or if it detected anything was missing, it also gives you the options to say like, would you like me to fix it for you? And it'll actually download the workloads. It'll download the CLI templates. It'll download, it'll create an Android emulator if you don't have one already. So it does all this stuff for you. So we're good to go. So the second thing is what I'll show you now is our template wizard. So there's one way you can do this in a neat little way. It's called new.platform.uno. And here you can build your application, or sorry, you can bootstrap your application with everything you want. So I could start building this, and we have our live wizard here. So this is actually an Uno application living in the wild, the WebAssembly version. And you can go and you can look through all this stuff. You can choose whether you want to include dependency injection, whether you want to do .NET MAUI embedding, whether you want to include the Uno toolkit library, how you want to render as is a big one here. So what? Okay, that's terrible. So what I didn't mention before is you can render basically up to you how you would like to do it. So would you like to render it natively using the native UI engines for whichever platform you're on, or would you like a unified, universal rendering across all your platforms using Skia as the engine, right? And so what we're going to do now is we'll jump over to Rider. Am I in the right one? Yes, this is Rider. So this is a little app that I created. But the first thing we're going to do is sort of show that experience, that wizard experience, but how that actually works in Rider itself. Oh my God, everything's zoomed in like crazy. Um, hold on. Zoom out. Zoom out. Good. Okay. So if you were to go to New Solution, you'll see here that we have this Uno platform selection as part of your new solution wizard. And this is all thanks to the fact that there is a Uno platform plugin that is available in the JetBrains marketplace for Rider. So all you have to do is install that, and it brings in a whole smorgasbord of stuff. So first things first is basically your solution wizard here. And so all the options that we had before, the name, whether you want to preset it with some recommended stuff, what do you want to do, not net 9 or net 10 preview or RC, which platforms, which presentation framework, and all this stuff is all available for you to sort of bootstrap your application. And so basically what I had just done is I just selected blank. We'll just have a blank simple project, and I did net 9. But I already have it here, so we don't have to watch it load and restore NuGet packages and all that fun stuff. So this is what an Uno app looks like inside of Rider. And so this is Rider with the Uno platform. So if I open up here, this is basically what your Uno app looks like, right? So you have a single solution, a single project. So you have your single project there, and then everything sort of lives underneath that. And then if you have platform specific needs, so if you need to access, the app delegate, or if you need to do something in your main activity for Android, or whatever, you need something in your native sort of entry point to your platform, that all exists in these platform folders, and you have access to all that. It's not abstracted away from you. It's right there for you to use. Um, and so we could take a look at we're already looking at CS project. Good. And so you'll see that the CS project for this is actually quite small, right? So there's not a lot to it, but there actually is. And so one of the reasons that it's simple and clean is because we're using this Uno SDK. So it's our own SDK that you can go and you can check out, right? So you can go to, where is it? The Uno SDK here. And this basically brings in all of the dependencies that you would need for your application, for depending on the platforms that you're selecting, right? Um, and then we sort of bring in all that stuff via Uno features, we call it. And so you'll see here that we have these features that you can use, right? So you could say, okay, I want to include the Uno extensions library. I want to bring in, I want to use C# markup. I want to do logging with Serilog. So you put those in as your Uno features inside of your Uno features list here. And it pulls in those packages for you. It pulls in any platform specific stuff it needs, and it does it all for you, right? So it's a little bit easier to manage in that case. And this is the XAML of what our app looks like. So I'll run this as well. I'll run it on the desktop target for now. And so if you're familiar with XAML development, some people hate it, some people love it. I think XAML is the best. But if you're looking at the XAML and it looks familiar, it's because basically what we have done is we've taken the UI APIs that are coming from Windows for developing Windows applications, the WinUI APIs, and we've basically taken those and stretched them across all these other platforms and made them work. So it's the same API surface as you would with a WinUI app, but now working across all platforms. So it's pretty cool. And so this is our very exciting first cross-platform application running on the net desktop target. That is what I chose here at desktop. And I'll just move this here. So what's actually happening here doesn't look very exciting, but it is pretty cool because what's happening here now is this window is a native window. It's a native like macOS app kit window or whatever. If I were to run this on Windows, it'd be like the Win32 a shell, right? And then within it is our Skia-based rendered app. So for all desktop platforms, whether it's Linux, Windows, or Mac, it'll have that native shell around it. You have native access to all the tooling around the windowing, and then inside it's a universally rendered application using Skia as the rendering engine. And so this is where that Skia based rendering originated. But we actually extracted that out, and now it's able to be used for any of the platforms that Uno targets, not just desktop. So you have that option of, depending on the platform that you're on, which rendering engine you'd like to use, right? So the universal Skia one is very nice because it's the same across all platforms. It's very consistent. And so with this little application, we'll talk about what this little slider guy does in a second. But I was playing around with this in Writer before, and I thought it was pretty fun. So I'm going to open up Junie. Oh, God, everything's so zoomed. I'm going to open up Junie. And so this is the coding agent, sort of AI agent that lives inside of Writer. And we can tell it to do some stuff. So change the text of the text block in the main page to say, hello, JetBrains. Okay, and we can tell it to do its thing. And then in the meantime, I'll explain a little bit of what's going on. So while that's working, what you see here, this little thing that's floating around. So that's sort of our oh, it actually did it way quicker than I thought. Okay, so 1 second. It should work. There you go. Okay, so you see on the right, Junie did its thing. It listened to what I said, and it actually edited our XAML. So you see it says hello JetBrains right now in our XAML for our text block. Now what you'll also notice is that it updated in the app itself, right? So the app is still running, is still connected to the IDE. The debugger is not attached. It's just, it has a connection to the IDE. And thanks to the Uno platform plugin that we have this extensive hot reload support, right? So it does more than just changing text, but it maintains state where you are, and any changes you do for your C# or for your XAML are reflected in your application without having to restart the app, right? And so yeah, I thought that was a little interesting thing. So Junie can update our app, and then Uno takes over the hot reload capabilities to update our Uno app live as we go. So that is one nice way of being able to sort of play around and live edit some stuff. Now, the second way, and I think the more interesting way, is I'm going to call your attention to what I was trying to do before, to this sort of floating toolbar. And so the first one I have here is actually our hot reload status. And so that is just telling me when I can or cannot rely on hot reload to actually make changes to my application and do anything, right? So this will tell me, hey, I currently don't have a connection to the IDE, or in this case, if the debugger is attached or something, it's not working. Anyway, right now everything is good. So if I click this, it'll actually tell me, yes, I'm connected, and it'll give me a history of the updates and the hot reload events that have occurred. And so this one right here is the one that Junie made on our main page. And so the second icon that we're looking at here is actually our hot design experience, right? And so if you haven't heard of hot design, it's really, really amazing. And that's what we're going to show right now. So I'm not really going to explain what it is. I'm just going to show you what it is. So this is our app now after I had entered hot design. So this is still the actual application, right? It's still our Uno app 1 window and everything, except now your app has sort of entered this suspended like design canvas sort of idea, right? And so we've actually injected some UI into your application, and we have all this available to us. So on the right, we have our toolbox. And so here is all the available UI elements, any UI elements that Hot Design has been able to inspect in the running application. and the referenced assemblies, and anything that we could bring into the app and actually alter the UI with and do anything with, right? What you can do here is the element tree is the second part on this left. And so this is giving us a live view of the actual visual tree of our application. And it's interactable. So not only can it show me, but I can actually, I can select these things. I can select the text box. I can also select them on your app canvas right now. So the app is sort of in the suspended state where it's not actually functional in the same way where the buttons won't work anymore. And it's more selectable. So you can choose individual components on your application. And then as you see on the right, when I am selecting this stuff, the property grid populates, right? So it sees that I have now selected a text block, and it shows me all the properties available to me that I can choose from. Now, what's interesting is this smart and this all, right? So this is my smart list of properties. And so these are the ones contextually aware to be like, okay, I'm selecting a text block. So text is probably the biggest thing that people want to edit, and some other ones that are like text alignment and stuff like that. And it's smart enough to know. So like if this text block was a direct child of a grid or something, um, the smart properties would show me the attached properties for grid.row and grid.column to be editable here. Like it'll bubble us up to the smart ones just because it makes most sense, right? And so you always have access to all of your properties here. But here the smart ones are, what I'd like. And so Junie sort of switched this up for us to say hello JetBrains. So we can actually put this back to hello Uno platform. And you see we have the hot reload indicator is telling us yes, something properly reloaded. And you see it says hello Uno platform here again. So we can exit out of hot design actually. And the changes persisted. So it now says hello Uno platform, which is really cool. And I'll just resize this a bit and I'll get rid of you. And you'll actually notice that the XAML has changed as well. So not only are you able to visually edit your UI on the fly as the app is currently running, you're actually able to edit the code of your application visually while it's running, right? So what actually happened here is I made that change. It changed it in the application. It sent that back to the IDE over our communication channel, and it updated that code. And then the hot reload, hot design cycle sort of kept everything in sync. And so now we have changed. It's a visual designer as well as a visual code editor, if you like. So that is it for my little. Oh, actually, no. I wanted to show you one more thing. And so what I really like to show is, sure, that makes a lot of sense for things like a desktop, where you have lots of real estate on your screen, because you saw hot design is a big thing, right? Like you have all those panels on the right and the left, and you need space. So how does this work for things like if I'm running on my physical device, on my phone, or if I'm running on the emulator or the iOS simulator or things like that, right? So we can take a look at this app. Are you here? We could take a look at this app installing on the iOS simulator. We'll just make this clear and we'll open this. Yes. And so here is that same application running. I'll put it here. Here's that same application running. And you see, once again, I am given this floating toolbar that is available to me on all the platforms. I can move it around. And I do have a connected state for my hot reload. So we're in good condition, good position. And so I can click hot design again, and you'll see not much changed in the UI on the simulator. But what actually happened is a secondary app opened on my dev machine. That is the hot design canvas that we usually are used to having within the UI. So when we're in situations where this really not a lot of real estate on the screen, or if you just so wish to have it separate on all platforms, even desktop, you can tell hot design to open its UI as a secondary window. Sorry. And we have a special communication that's happening between the hot design standalone app, and the simulator or the device that it's currently running on. So once again, your app has become this canvas, right? So I can actually select the Hello Uno platform text block on the simulator in the actual app, and it'll communicate back to hot design here saying, okay, they selected the text block. And let's go back and let's re-put this to hello JetBrains, right? And so we made the change. It is reflected again in our app running independently on the simulator. I can exit out of Hot Design. Hot Design goes into this suspended state here if I ever want to re-enter it or not in the secondary app. And then once again, we could take a look at the code and editing visually the application in an iOS simulator has gone back to the IDE and actually changed the code, right? So it now says hello JetBrains. So that is our little demo of Hot Design in a very simple app, right? Now, if I go back, so that was basically how we want you to check out how you can develop visually. And so this is a really cool piece of technology, and it's a lot of moving parts, and we're connecting wires and hot reloading and doing all this crazy stuff, right? So, like it mentions here, it's our visual designer, it's our runtime visual designer, but it's also you could think of it as this visual code editor at the same time, right? Like you're actually you're actually programming as you mess stuff around, right? It's actually changing the code. Um, and then again, it sits on top of this hot reload capability that we bring to all the IDEs. So VS Code, but Rider as well through our plugins. And so you're able to change your C sharp, you're able to change your XAML, and it'll just hot reload and reflect on the app itself. So and it maintains state, which is the really cool thing. Like you could be on the third page deep with something selected in a combo box, you change the selections of the combo box, like, and you'll stay on that page. You'll stay with the proper state of that combo box selected item and all that fun stuff, right? So you don't have to re-drill into the pages. And so what we're going to show next, or what I'm going to show next, is um, a more complex situation. So it's all fun and games when you're in a simple app that has a single text block in it. That's not really a real world situation. So you can actually do some really complex stuff. Building with Uno platform, you can make full-fledged applications, and you can also use our tooling to actually help you develop it in these complex situations, right? So what we are going to show is that application is chefs is basically what we're going to look at, and so you can get a feel of it here. But basically, it's an open source repository that I'll put in the chat. But this is our reference implementation for how we think what we think are the best practices for building Uno applications in a cross-platform world, right? So it includes basically all the bells and whistles that Uno provides. So it has Uno extensions. So it has library support for the navigation framework, for our own presentation framework, for uh, um, authentication. It's using our Uno toolkit, which is a library of just more controls that are built with a cross-platform mindset, like navigation bars and tab bars and stuff that doesn't come out of the box with the same UI. My mom is calling me. 1 second. Okay. So yes, so this is Chefs, and so it's a fully cross-platform application, and we'll show the little tips and tricks that we do to sort of get this to look right and act right on the different form factors of your targets, right? Because this looks all well and good on desktop, but this flow right now probably won't look that great on mobile if you have this huge side to side thing. So we're going to show you a little bit of like how we built it, and so those are sort of the tips, sort of the guidances that we want to show to be able to tell people this is how you deal with cross-platform applications on small and big screens. So it just has like some fake like dummy auth, and it has all this nice stuff. And so here we are. So we have the application here. We have our list of recipes, and you can search, you can mark stuff as favorite, and blah 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 blah. Now I see that we are properly connected to our ID still, so that's good. And so if you were to make changes to this stuff, it would be really really cool to be able to do this on the fly at runtime, right? So if I entered in Hot Design here for the Chefs app, I'll just make this a bit bigger. You'll notice that now we have a bit more of a complex visual tree, right? So it looks a little bit more complex than just text block on our main page. So what we actually can do is on top of here, you see we can select anything we want. I'm going to select this list of my recipes. And so what this is actually selected is, you'll see here, is a feed view. I don't know if I could zoom in I don't know, is the feed view. So a feed view is just something that's coming from our Uno extensions library, and it's compatible with our presentation framework, with that reactive observable sort of MVUX presentation framework that we have. So think of it as just like an asynchronous value presenter, right? So it's a special view that shows different templates based on the data that's bound to it, whether it's in a loading state or a ready state or an error state or an empty state or anything like that. So this feed view, what I can do is not only can I edit the properties here and do whatever I want, I can actually right click on it. Hey, what is happening? Right click. There you go. And I could choose something like edit the value template. So edit the template of this control when there is an actual value that it's bound to. So if I edit the value template, we're now in this purple mode, right? And purple means templates. So purple means that you have drilled down into your application. So you don't always need to you can't always, sorry, what am I trying to say? Not only can you edit the static XAML that's on like the main page or whatever page you're on, you can drill down and you can go into reusable components like the XAML that defines user control or the XAML that defines a data template, which isn't the case here. And so the template that we have for this feed view, if I were to select this, oh, oh, I just dragged it by accident. Ah, ah. Uh, okay, good. I just undid what I did. Good. Okay. So if we were selected, we'll see that this is an items repeater, right? So this is just a WinUI, or well, it's WinUI, but an Uno control that's a list. So it just has a list of templated items. So what I could do in here is in this items repeater here, I can select to edit the item template itself. So now we're two levels deep now. So we're inside of a data template, inside of a data template, inside of a page. And let's just say for each recipe, I don't like this text block. I don't really care that it's 16 minutes and I don't want to know the calories. So we can right click and we can actually just delete this, right? And so it's deleted from our example template here. And I can go all the way back up. So let's just go two levels up back to the main page. And you see the little update happen there if you saw it quickly. And you'll see that it's actually gone. It's actually gone from all the items in the list. And if we were to do a quick look at the code, if I do my changes here, oh my God, everything's so zoomed. There. You'll notice that. So this text block that used to have that is actually now gone. So it was truly deleted by Hot Design, and it's no longer in my XAML for my item template that's inside of my feed view template, right? So you're deep down. Um, oh, this is still open. Go away. Yes, and so not only is it there in the code, it's fully reflected and it's there in the running app as well. So what you can actually do is you can enter interactive mode. So if you see my cursor here, instead of exiting Hot Design fully, I can actually just go to interactive mode and you see Hot Design sort of shuts down or just like disables itself. So these things don't work anymore. And your app is back to being usable, right? So it's actually acting as it should, right? So you can quickly test without having to leave the Hot Design experience. And you see that this app is indeed been changed and it no longer has this in any of its templates. Now, what about if we were to go into one of these? So I can go into here and we have recipe details. So this is where I really wanted to talk about how you can deal with responsive UI in a cross-platform way, because I find that's one of the most difficult things when you're building cross-platform applications is it's really hard to design for because it's the same app, right? So it needs to look good on mobile, but it also needs to look good on big wide screens for browser or for desktop or anything like that, right? And these windows are usually resizable and you have to think about these things, right? So you need to have specific breakpoints set and you actually need to change the visual structure of your UI or of your application depending on what you're targeting. And so we tried to make that as easy as possible. And so one of the cool things that you can do, actually, I'll enter into Hot Design mode again. So I'll set it all up. Um, One of the cool things that you can do in Hot Design is instead of having to run this on the browser and then run this on your simulator and see how it looks different, what you can actually do is you can go to the designer settings here. And so right now we're in this like wide laptop mode, say, for screen size. What we can actually do is we can say, what is this going to look like on a phone? So it'll actually readjust your UI and react as it would if you were on your phone. And you can see that the UI doesn't look great, right? So one of the cool things that did happen though, that you can check out in the code, is that this tab bar actually changed, right? So this makes a lot more sense in a vertical sort of tight portrait mode for an application to be on the bottom. If I were to switch this, back to what we were before, you'll notice that see it's vertical on the side here, which makes more sense in like a wide view. So we can go back to here, and it's not looking great, right? So there must be something that we should be doing. And so what we can do is we can select sort of the main layout panel that is laying out the list of ingredients and the hero image that we have here. And we can see that it's set to horizontal, and it doesn't really make sense. It makes sense in a larger screen, but it doesn't really make sense for these smaller screens. So if I looked and saw what this would look like vertical, then it looks a lot better. Now it's properly aligning both those contents vertically. But the thing is, I need this to be horizontal in big screen and vertical in little screen. So how do we actually deal with that? And so I'll put this back to horizontal just for now. And what you can actually do is here in this horizontal property that I'm editing, you'll notice that there's this advanced property editor field. And I'm doing this through Hot Design just because it's cool. But these are everything that I'm doing now will be generating code using library code that you have access to from the Uno toolkit, right? So I can click this. And you have this advanced property editor. Can I zoom? Yes, I can. So what you see here is basically you can have your orientation set to a direct value like it is now. You could set it to a binding, and you could set it to a static resource if it makes sense in that context. But what you can also do is set it to a responsive value. So if I were there, if I were to select this, what happens now is I can actually see at each visual breakpoint, which is customizable, by the way, like what your pixel width should your breakpoints be. But by default, these are the values. What you can actually do is you can say, okay, when I'm in wide mode, so I'll open up the wide mode, I want this to be, oh no, sorry. Yeah, when we're in normal, I want this to be vertical, right? And when we're in wide mode, I would rather this be horizontal. Oh, sorry, I messed that up. Anyway, so we're in wide mode, so it should be horizontal. Now, if I'm in normal or less, so normal, narrow, or narrowest, it should be vertical, right? So now we have these two things set. So for normal, it's vertical, and for wide, it's horizontal. And then we'll just close this out, and now we could see how this reacts, right? So it looks good on narrow. If I go back to wide, it looks good on wide again, right? So it looks good in both. And just to see what that actually means in terms of how to use this in XAML itself, we'll just see what what Hot Design did for us. So you'll notice that the layout panel that we're using, its orientation originally was just straight up set to horizontal, and now what it's actually doing is too zoomed in. Okay. What it's actually doing is it's setting that orientation to a markup extension that lives inside of our Uno toolkit called responsive. So basically, normal or below will become vertical, and wide or larger than wide, which is widest, will be horizontal layout. And so, like I mentioned before, at any level you can scope, whether it's the page level, the control level, the app level, you can scope what your visual breakpoints should be, like the pixel values of what those visual breakpoints should be. So it's totally customizable up to you, but that's just a really really cool thing that we built that I'm really proud of. Actually, is this responsive extensions thing, and it works out of the box with Hot Design too. So it's pretty interesting. And the last thing I wanted to show was I forgot to show you how the bindings work. So let's stay in hot design and let's go to this list of ingredients, right? Is that what we want to do? No. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to interactive and we're going to go out of interactive. We're going to select the avocado toast recipe again. So let's go to the item template like we did before. And now what we can actually do is this card content control, which is just a control that we have in the toolkit. We can actually go ahead and see um, here we go, the avocado text block, right? So we can actually go here and we can see for this text block, if I were to search for the text the data context here. What we can actually do is we can see what the data context is for any of these elements in our visual tree or in the application itself, right? So I can actually go here. Oh, oh. I messed something up. Ah, where's my data context? There. So we can actually go here and we can go into the binding property of whatever property that we're looking at, the binding section. And what you can do is you can say, okay, I want to build a binding. So I want to do an ancestor binding, which is another toolkit markup extension. I want to do an X bind, or I want to do a normal binding. So let's do a normal binding. And mhm, and basically, since this app is running, like at runtime, it's running, uh, we are able to instantly investigate or look into the live data context that you have for whatever you're looking at, right? So you can see that we have a recipe instance that we're actually binding to, and here are all the properties and all the values that the current data context has for this item that we've selected, right? And so there you can actually live visually, build a binding and inspect the current data context and see what's going on. So that is what I wanted to show. And the last thing I want to show, because it's very interesting, is I messed up the data context, so it's going to be broken on this list now, but that's okay. But basically, the last thing I wanted to show was third-party support too, and how you can actually deal with Uno applications and third-party support for things like maps, let's say, right? So if I'm in this popular contributors page, it's supposed to be showing a map here, right? But it's not. But basically, I want to have a map with all the pins on it of the recipe authors and where they are near me. It's a little creepy, but we're trying to think of some way to get maps integrated into this app. And so right now it's not there because I removed it for the demo. So what we can actually do is we can go back to this toolbox and we can say, and like I mentioned before, so this is all the UI elements that are available to your application to pull in. So it has all the basic, your list views, your panels, text boxes, sliders, blah, 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 blah. But the really cool thing is that runtime is hot design, like when we launch into it, is able to see all the external references we have as external projects and inspect those external references and find if they have any UI elements or anything that can be used on the UI itself, right? And so I have Mapsui installed, or not installed, referenced in this application. So you can see here, actually I'll zoom. So you can see here that we have, it has detected a reference that we have to Mapsui UI, Uno, WinUI, and it found this map control in this third-party NuGet library that we have, right? Unzoom, unannotate. And then, so we could take that map control and we could actually drag it in onto the screen. And so it's not there right now. Oh, I put it in the wrong place. Sorry. Oh boy. I want to put it, let's delete it. Put it in the wrong spot. Ah, uh-oh. See, this is why I can't do this right. Okay, anyway, doesn't matter. It'll show up anyway. So this map page, our code behind is already set up to connect with a map. Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Where's my map control? There we go. Oh god. Okay. Hold on. I messed everything up. Undo changes. Okay. So our map controls here. So as long as I were to set its stretch. You know what? I think I royally screwed this up. Hold on 1 second. We're gonna exit of hot design. We're gonna kill this. We're gonna undo what I did because I messed something up hardcore. Map page. Roll back. Roll back. Cool. So we'll do this again. Let's let it build. Yeah, sometimes if you drag stuff in the wrong place, it's not happy with what you do. So if we open this back up, and we'll let hot reload and hot design reconnect. There we go. So let's go to hot design. Cool. All right. So let us get the map control. Map control. There we go. And so let's look at the visual tree. And so now we have it in the right spot. I pushed it into a place that it shouldn't have been put before. So you can see here that we have our navigation bar at the top that has the near me. And then below that, we have the map control. And so the map control is not going to show anything just yet. But it's able to know that, hey, we are in an auto layout, which is one of our layout controls that we have, our layout panels. And I want to change its primary alignment to stretch instead, right? And so the map has stretch and it's actually there. It's just not showing anything yet. And so our map control, the code behind is already set up to look for an instance of a map control with a name called map control and wire everything up, right? But the page is already loaded, but we don't really have to worry about that. So as long as I type in map control as its name and I make that change, the page should hot reload while it updates. And there we go. We have the map actually now set up and reinitialize the page, and the pins are on the map now, and we can actually do some interactions with it, and we can work with this map. We can, select our pins and see what's going on here and all that fun stuff, right? And we can exit out of hot design, and it is indeed there in our application running. And if I were to look now at our map page after I horrendously mangled it, you'll actually see that we have a map control added to our map page. It has the name that we set, it has the stretch that we set, and really cool too is it has pulled in the namespace since it wasn't referenced there in the XAML already. So it's able to detect third-party controls and the namespace they need and edit your XAML to include those as well. So the XAML is still proper and valid, right? And that is a little bit of a run through of Chefs itself um, and Hot Design. Yeah, and so the last thing I wanted to show was where is how you can reach out to us. Here we go. No, that's not what I wanted. Discord. So right. Oh, okay. It just opens the whole thing. So I would highly suggest if you're more interested in Uno platform and learning about hot design, learning about how we are building this, and learning about how we target different platforms, any of that stuff, check out platform.uno. Okay. And check out the community tab in here. And so we have GitHub where everything is there. It's open source and ready to be used. But we also have Discord. So our Discord has like I don't know, a lot, like over 1,000 people, and the community is in there, and it's super active. So if you ever have questions about using Uno, if you get stuck somewhere, if you have anything like that, our Discord is a thriving community, and we really appreciate people joining it because we get lots of feedback and we get lots of interactions, and it's really good for us to, you know, to to have, right? Because it helps us build better applications. And the other thing I was going to mention is the Uno platform documentation, right? So um, we worked really hard to try and get this, flowing in a right way. And so there's tons and tons of information here. So there's things like publishing, like how do you publish for desktop? How do you publish your app on WebAssembly? How do you publish for Android? So how do you actually get your Uno application out there in the real world? It's not just for demos. It's actually for building real applications, as well as like our toolkit, our extensions, and it has a breakdown of all of our offerings. So I would highly suggest reading through the docs and checking out our samples and tutorials. So we have workshops and we have sort of getting started for first time Uno users and all that. But once again, definitely connect to us on our Discord. Reach out to me on any socials, and yeah, let me know if you build anything cool or if you have any cool ideas that we can work on and help you out with. So yeah, that's Uno platform in a flash. So yeah, I hope you learned something. And yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
Yeah, hi, Steve. Fantastic demo there. There's a lot of really cool things going on with the hot design. Is that what it's called? Hot design. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was very surprised with that. Click a button and all of a sudden you're in a designer. That's actually really nice. I like that, and I liked that last bit you were just talking about, the documentation as well, being targeted at releasing real applications and not just demos. It's yeah, it was really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I like what a lively discussion your presentation encouraged in the chat. There are so many people discussing the advantages and pitfalls of various cross-platform frameworks. A question I want to throw out there for you to comment on is, why was Uno created when Avalonia already exists and provides similar features and functionality?
Yeah, I mean, well, my take on this basically is the more .NET offerings there are for app development, the better. So like, there shouldn't be just one. But Uno really came out of this amazing internal tool that it used to be, because I'll give you a little bit of the history, but basically, uh, this development firm that was in Montreal started developing these applications and slowly built up this framework for cross-platform development, and it's just grown from there. So it's been years, I don't even know how many years, that this is being used in different formats and different variations in real world production applications, right? And so it just became such a big thing that we wanted it to be useful for other people, not just us, right? So we spun it out. And honestly, it's always great to have choice. I'm not going to say which
Yeah,
one
of
is
course.
better and which one's not. Obviously, anything I say is going to be biased, but I highly suggest like checking out all the offerings if you want to do .NET cross-platform development. It depends on what you want to target, depends on the APIs and technologies that you want to use. So try out all of them. Try out Avalonia, try out Uno, try out all of them, and you know, choose what you find is most comfortable and best for you. And if you have any questions specific with Uno and you want to know how can we do this, how can we do that, definitely reach out to us. But yeah, it's not you know, we're not fighting each other. We're trying to share the .NET love. So yeah.
Got it. So you encourage people to try out different frameworks and see which suits their projects best, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we all do things like, we're all similar enough. You know, we cross paths in some way with other offerings, but we all do things in our own way. And you know, some might think it's better, some might think it's worse, but like it really depends on what you want to use as a technology. So.
I like this attitude, to be honest. The .NET world can be very sort of single vendor centric because of Microsoft's presence, and so it is very nice to have an environment where we can have multiple vendors doing, you know, somewhat overlapping things, perhaps, but you know, with different takes and a different direction for each one, and you can choose whichever one sort of suits and fits best, really.
Yeah, and honestly, even mixing and matching is cool because Uno applications, right? They cross you know, streams with other platforms that say .NET MAUI targets. And the really cool thing is within Uno applications, as long as you're on the platforms that also support MAUI, you can embed MAUI controls into an Uno application, right? So if you had like the Telerik PDF viewer or something that's working with MAUI, you can actually place that in an Uno application and it'll work on iOS, Android, and Windows, right? So you can actually have both. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
One of our viewers said that Maui appears to be mainly interested in mobile, while given their bare bones support for desktop. Is Uno different in that way?
Um, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, Maui came more as Xamarin Forms and whatever. It was mostly, you know, just mobile first. We have been building mobile applications using Uno and its previous iterations. We've been building mobile applications for years and years, but I think it's sort of like the best of both because it has a lot of um, foundation in building mobile applications, but at the same time, the APIs that we're actually bridging over and using for all of our frameworks, all of our targets, are the WinUI APIs, which are desktop Windows APIs, right? So the APIs themselves and everything makes sense in both worlds, makes sense in different sizing, like WinUI has visual state triggers for the different window widths and all that fun. Like everything's built in for desktop development and smaller form factor development, and we sort of do both at the same time. We implement it for mobile, but we also have it working on desktop with those desktop APIs. So, yeah.
Another question from the chat is more specific. Can one customize the shell with Uno?
The shell. Yeah. So, like what I was mentioning before. So I guess we're talking about desktop. So yeah, you have like your. No, I'm not sharing my screen. You have
You can bring your screen back on if you'd like to show something.
Yeah, sure. Let us.
There we go. We can see your screen now.
So say we're on desktop. Here we go. So basically in our platforms folder, basically you have everything that's here to create that shell for you on desktop. So like use X11 or Linux frame buffer for Linux, use macOS, use Win32. So that's what's going to be building the shell for each of these different platforms. And within those, you have the access in these builders for what those native windows can do per platform or whatever. So like, yes, you have access to those shells, you have access to the app delegates or whatever for macOS, iOS, and you can play around with those things as you so wish, right? There's always more support coming. For macOS desktop, we can do more with integrating with the menu and the status bar and all that stuff. But yes, it's all available and exposed to you to be able to use. Yeah.
Nice. I was wondering as well about the Uno application you had. That was based on WebAssembly, I think you said. Is it showing like the wizard type assembly?
Yeah. So that's live.platform.uno.
Yeah.
And so it's actually interesting because it's an Uno application. So we could target anything. And so where it actually came out of is if you're in, I'll mention Visual Studio, but if you're in Visual Studio and you choose Start New Uno Application, it'll actually run that app natively, like on your desktop. And so it's the same app as the web or whatever, but then it interacts with Visual Studio and sends the command over to build the template. But that's the same exact app that's running in the browser for anyone. And so the only difference is in the browser when you click create, it doesn't open up Visual Studio with your project. It generates you the .NET CLI command that you can use to start your application.
Right. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. I was also curious because one of the things on there you highlighted, it was native versus Skia rendering, and I was just kind of wondering what that meant for look and feel in that case.
Yeah. So excuse me. Yeah. So for the most part, like you shouldn't really even notice. Like sometimes you can't tell you can tell because it's better performance. But Skia basically is what you're seeing on our desktop application. It now goes on iOS and Android, and we have it's startup times. Everything's way more responsive, and it's very, very nice. But the native side as well is still there, and it's still optimized, and everything's there. So maybe like certain gestures or whatever we have to sort of edit and put on the screen. So like on Android when you swipe down and sort of everything kind of stretches and bounces or whatever. So like that's a telltale that it's native. So try that on apps that don't, and you could tell. But nice. These things are being added and logged and like being improved on right now. So all those native bits and bobs are being worked on as we speak. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I like that, the little sneaky giveaway so you can know what's happening under the hood. It's good.
Yeah. But then, I mean, the big thing is WebAssembly as well. So WebAssembly Skia is really amazing. It's very nice and smooth and fast. And then there, if you inspect the source on a normal application, a native application with Uno, you'll see it's all divs and all this crazy stuff in HTML. And you right-click View Source on an Uno app that's Skia, and it's just like a single canvas element. That's it. There's nothing else in it, right? So it's really interesting.
Yeah. Nice. Do you have any other questions, Sasha?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I think we'll wrap things up there. Then, thank you very much for your session there, Steve. That was very interesting.
you, Steve.
I'm very impressed with the hot design thing and the link back to the XAML and stuff. That's pretty cool. I thought that was really nicely done.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I forgot to mention, go on the website. We have a thing for hot design and for all Studio, Platform Studio, which is all the offerings. And so reach out to us if you want to, you can start a trial for free or whatever, but reach out to us if you ever want more in more details or more access to it. Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. Cheers, Steve.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.